Good morning, everyone. Our task for today is to report about Fisheries Administrative Order number 1 and 7, series of 2000. So, subject, rules and regulations governing the list of public lands for fish pond development. So, pursuant to the provisions of Section 3, 6, 12, 13, 45, 46, 50, 55, 57, 65, and 107 of Republic Act of number 8550, otherwise known as the Philippine Fisheries Code of 1998, and Section 4 of Republic number 7881. The following rules and regulations governing the list of public lands for fish pond development purposes are hereby promulgated. So, Section 1, Fish Pond List. An agreement entered into by and between the Secretary of Agriculture and qualified fish pond applicant for the use of public land for fish pond development purposes for a period of 25 years. So, kasabutan ni siya sa mo apply o sa Secretary of Agriculture kung qualified ba siya sa ilahang kuan sa kanang fish pond nga gusto niyang applyan or gusto niyang kanang gamiton for business. So, 1.2 Permanent improvement. Improvements introduced in the fish pond area which cannot be separated or removed therefrom without causing damage thereto. So, dapat i-improve po niya ang fish pond niya. Dapat po, kung mahuman na po ang kanang after 25 years, dapat sad nga ma-maintain gihapon ang kuan ang area. Ma-maintain gyapon niya ang kahimbaon sa fish pond. Ma-improve sad niya. So, 1.3 Temporary improvement. So, improvements introduced in the fish pond area which can be removed or separated therefrom without causing damage thereto or diminish the usefulness thereof. 1.4 Fish pond. A land-based facility enclosed within earthen, stone, or concrete material to impound water for the growing of fish. So, kita mas tanan anino nakailaw fish pond. 1.5 Fish includes not only finfish but also mollusks, crustaceans, echinoderms, marine mammals, and all other species of the aquatic flora and fauna. 1.6 Occupied. So, actual or constructive possession over the fish pond area. 1.7 Unoccupied. Not occupied by any person or else occupied by a person disqualified to acquire or enter upon it, or by a person who or being qualified to occupy or use it, refuses or fails to exercise his preferential right thereto. Sa unoccupied ka na walay walay nagamit tungod kay walay nagamit tungod kay na disqualified ang kana nga tao sa iyang pag-apply or kuan ka ng fail ang siguro ang sa pag-improve niya sa fish pond. Sumuong wala dawata. 1.8 Mangroves or tidal swamps or marshes. A community of intertidal plants including all species of trees, shrubs, vines, and herbs found on coast, swamps, or border of swamps. 1.9 Foreshore land. A string of land margining a body of water, the part of a seashore between the low water line, usually at the seaward margin of a low tide terrace and the upper limit of wave wash at high tide usually marked by a beach scarp or berm. Kanang kakita mo anang kinta ay kanang 'di ba sa panggangan kanang parehas ng kuan, Shilo Asul? Na kanang nabito siya mga plastic nga kanang naglutaw silbing simuon siyang linya kay para mabawaan nimo nga kanang dapita na anas ay kanang lawom na siya dili pwede dungan. So 1.10 vegetated with mangrove species. An intertidal area of 1 hectare or more with at least 10% mangrove ground cover in each hectare. So when the sun is directly overhead at high noon, the shadows cast by mangrove species cover at least 10% of the area. So, kuan, dapat kanang kuan mo kung kuan kag fish pond, dapat na ay mangrove. Doon siya sa mangrove para og kanang muinit og taman para ng alas 12 init man jud na kaayo para sa malandong-landongan gamay ang fish pond. So 1.11 suitable for fish pond purposes. So meeting all accepted criteria on elevation, soil type, soil depth, topography, and water supply required for successful fish pond development. 1.12 Undeveloped fish pond area. Areas not enclosed by dikes or enclosed by dikes without functional water control structures, or those enclosed by dikes with functional water control structures, but the water level required for production on a commercial scale cannot be maintained either by high tides or by pumping, or a larger area enclosed only with a simple perimeter dike which has not been subdivided, which may or may not be vegetated with mangrove species and is not producing a commercial scale. So 1.13 Developed fish pond. Area are enclosed by dikes with functional water control structures not vegetated with mangrove species and producing on a commercial scale but not a fully developed fish pond. So, dapat jud nga fully developed jud ang fish pond para ma-qualified sad ka. So, 1.14 Fully developed fish pond. A clean, leveled area enclosed with dikes at least 1 foot higher than the highest floodwater level in the locality and strong enough to resist water pressure at the highest flood tide, consists of at least a nursery pond, a transition pond, a rearing pond, or a combination of any or all said classes of ponds and a functional water control system and producing in a commercial scale. So, dapat imuhang fish pond is kuan kanang hinlo unya kumpleto na ay nursery pond, transition pond, rearing pond ug kanang mga kuan pa na labi na sa ilahang kanang functional water control system. Dapat jud kanang prepared kung mga apply ka. So 1.15 Commercial scale producing fish pond. A fully developed fish pond producing not less than 1,000 kilograms or fish per hectare per year. 1.16 Person. Natural or juridical entities such as individuals, associations, partnerships, cooperatives, or corporations. 1.17 Fisher folk. People directly or personally and physically engage in taking and or culturing and processing fishery and or aquatic resources. So, kita na ka ng gusto mo apply, gusto magbuhi. 1.18 Fisher Folk Cooperative. A duly registered association of fisher folk with a common bond of interest who have voluntarily joined together to achieve a lawful common social or economic end, making equitable contribution to the capital requirement and accepting a fair share of the risks and benefits of the undertakings in accordance with universally accepted cooperative principles. 1.19 Fisher Folk Organization. An organized group, association, federation, alliance, or an institution of fisher folk which has at least 15 members, a set of officers, a constitution, and bylaws, an organizational structure, and a program of action. So 1.20 Small and medium enterprise. So any business activity or enterprise engaged in industry, agribusiness, and or services, whether single proprietorship, cooperative, partnership, or corporation which total assets inclusive of this arising from loan, but exclusive of the land on which the particular business entitles office, plant, and equipment are situated, must have value falling under the following categories. So, micro, less than 1,500,001. Small, 1,500,001 to 15 million. Ang medium is 15 million. Basa na 1,000.
10 million one.
15 million 1 to 60 million. Hana gudi ay. So 1.21 Environmental Compliance Certificate. A permit issued by the President or his duly authorized representative certifying and that the new fish pond development will not bring about unacceptable environmental and that the proponent has complied with the requirements of IES system. So 1.22 Department. Department of Agriculture. 1.23 Secretary of Agriculture. 1.24 Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. BFAR. 1.25 Director of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. 1.26 Regional Office or BFAR Regional Office, and 1.27 Regional Director or BFAR Director. So 1.28 Authorized Representatives. So include the BFAR Regional Director or other officials of the regional office designated by the Regional Director and other officials and employees of the BFAR or the Office of the Secretary duly designated by the Director of the Secretary. So, di juday ka basta-basta maka-apply ani kay daghan pa kag agian. So 1.29 Resource Rent. The difference between the value of the products produced from harvesting a publicly owned resource less than cost of producing it, where cost includes the normal return to capital and normal returns to labor. So, ari na ta sa section 2. So, list of public lands for fish pond development. Fish pond lease agreement or FLA must be secured by a person who shall occupy or use any portion of the public lands declared by Secretary of Environment and Natural Resources as available for fish pond purposes and released to the Bureau for its management and disposition in accordance with the provisions of this order. So, Section 13.
3.
Section 3. But, sorry. Persons who may apply for lease. So, ato ning mahibaw-an kung kinsa ang angayan mo apply or kinsa ang qualified nga mo apply. So, the following persons may apply for fish pond lease. So, citizens of the Philippines who are at least 21 years of age. So, bisag 21 pa ka, bata pa man dyan na, pwede na ka mo apply. So, dapat sa citizenship ka diri sa Pilipinas. B. Corporations duly incorporated and registered under the law of the Philippines at least 60% or 60% of the capital stock or interest of which belongs to citizens of the Philippines, and fisherfolk cooperatives or associations and small and medium enterprises duly organized or registered under the laws of the Philippines. So, dapat jud di ay nga magparehistro ka una or rehistrado ka. Section 4. Preference in the disposition of public lands for fish pond purposes. So, upon the effectivity of Republic Act Number 8550, FLAs may be issued for public lands that may be declared available for fish pond development, primarily to qualified fisherfolk cooperatives or associations. So, provided, however, that in cases of existing FLAs, the current lessees shall be given priority upon its expiration and shall be entitled to an extension of another 25 years in the utilization of the respective lease area. So, di ba og kanang 25 years naman jud ang kuha ng agreement anang fish pond kung apply ka. Kintahay og ma-end na ang ma-end na ang 25 years, pwede na sa it shall be entitled to an extension of another 25 years. Pwede na sad kag mo extend og another 25 years kung gustohon nimo. So thereafter, such FLA shall be granted to any Filipino citizen with preference primarily to qualified fisherfolk cooperatives or associations, as well as small and medium enterprises as defined under Republic Act Number 8289. So, dili jud ay lalim ning mo apply ta sa fish pond, mo ay moabang, magpakontrata ka, dili lalim, daghan pa kag agian. So, section 5, size of fish pond. So, mo ni ang, may baka na to kung sa kadako ng fish pond nga pwede, o iyang kuan. The area of fish pond to be leased shall be governed by the following. So, an individual may be allowed to lease an area of not exceeding 50 hectares. So, dako. So, husband and wife living together may be granted an aggregate area not exceeding 50 hectares. So, kung banag asawa, kung nakay bana or nakay asawa, or kanang gaipon siya nung duha, 50 ang area is not exceeding 50 hectares. So, provided, however, that husband and wife living separately by virtue of a decree of legal separation may apply for an area not exceeding 50 hectares each. So, kung kuan po di ay, kintahay, sa man legal separation, buwag, isig 50-50 sa di ay mo. Not exceeding 50 hectares each. Kada sa ninyo. C. A corporation, association, or cooperative may be granted an area not exceeding 250 hectares. Mga korpo, not exceeding 250 hectares. Third D. Any branch of government, person, or association who will engage in fish pond development for scientific research or educational purposes may be granted an area of not exceeding 10 hectares through a gratuitous permit. Pang educational plan na mag-thesis siguro. So, section 6. So, period of lease. The lease shall be a period of 25 years, renewable for another 25 years, subject to section 4, there's order. The terms and conditions of the lease and other existing fishery laws, rules, and regulations. So, mato kung ganina, kung mahumanan ni mga 25 years, pwede na sa kamo extend or mo renew for another 25 years. Section 7. So, preemptive rights of heirs. So, in case of the death of the lease, his spouse or children as legal heirs provided they are qualified. So, kintahay, kintahay, mo apply ko no Jaime sa akong bana, hanggang may bana. Hindi mamatay akong bana, nagitongo na. Mamatay akong bana. So, pwede ako ang anak, basta kay legal nga anak na ho, qualified sila nga moy mo, kuan mo continue sa na expired nga fish pan lease agreement. So, upon filing of a fish pan application within 90 days from the death of the lease, subject to the same terms and conditions as originally provided therein. So, pwede sa akong anak. So, Section 8. So, initial requirements in the filing of fish pan application. So, mao ni ang mga requirements sa kung gusto mong kung gaplano mo sa future nga magkuan mo ganang fish pan, mag-business mo ng isda, so makahibaw mo kung sa mga requirements. So initial requirements in the filing of fish pan application. So the initial requirements for the filing of fish pan list application are as follows. So 4 copies of the sketch plan of the area released for fish pond purposes with its technical description as extracted from the land classification map of the Forest Management Bureau. So, dapat naka-sketch plan. B. In case the area applied for fish pond development is within the alienable and disposable land under the jurisdiction of the Land Management Bureau, the comment is that office must first be secured to the effect that it interposes no objection to the issuance of a fish pond lease over the area. So C. In case of a juridical person, 2 certified true copies of articles of incorporation or association duly approved by government agencies concerned, the primary purpose of which is to engage in fish pond development. So, dapat na po kay certified true copies of articles in incorporation or association. Letter D. Certificate of bank deposit issued by any banking institution showing that the applicant has an initial capital in cash of 10 million per hectare or fraction thereof and or its equivalent assets. So, kuan, grabe, di jud ay lalim. Daghan pag-process, dapat pa jud na kay bangko. Dapat na kay kwarta. E. An affidavit declaring that the initial capital deposited in the bank shall be used exclusively for the development of the area. So, magpagama sa kag affidavit nga nagpamatuod nga kanang imong kwarta nga gideposit gikan sa bangko para na sa imuhang kuan, para sa development sa area nga imuhang gustong kanang abangan. So, certification from the ENR that the area is available for fish pond development. So, nasad na kuan dapat sa nasay muhatag sad ang taga DNR o certification nga kanang fish pond kanang area kuan na siya available. Section 9. Layo pa to sa tinuod. So application fee. So a non-refundable application fee of 1,000 person shall be paid to the Bureau or its regional offices upon filing of the application, which shall be remitted to the National Fisheries Research and Development Institute, so or NFRDI. Non-refundable to siya ha. Section 10. When application is considered filed. So, an application for lease shall be considered filed on the date and time the original thereof is actually received in the Bureau of or its regional offices where the area is located. Applications with incomplete initial requirements shall not be processed. So, kuan, dapat imhang kuan kanang mga requirements kuan siya kanang kumpleto kay kung dili di siya na siya ma-process. Section 10.
And
11. Jerome tarungan nag Jerome kay tama. So priority right of application. So in determining the priority of application, the following rules shall be observed. A. When two or more applications are filed for the same area which is unoccupied or unimproved, the first applicant shall have the right of preference thereto. So, kuan ni, if nagkataon man gani nga nay aplikante sa FLA nga the same, ang naay mas dakong right ani is kadto jud nakaunog apply. So, siguro ang rules ani is first come first serve. B. Between an applicant for and a bona fide occupant of an area available for fish pond purposes, the latter shall have the right of preference to the said area, in which case the actual occupant, if qualified, shall be advised by the director to file a fish pond application within 30 days from his receipt of a notice to that effect. If that occupant is not qualified under the law to apply the land or loses his rights for failure or refusal to represent his fish pond application within the time granted above, he shall be required to vacate. Naputol lagi to. Naputol siya. Section 12. Final requirements for the issuance of list. Mano dyan ang final. Pwede ito final ganina. So a fish pond list may be issued in favor of an applicant upon submission of the following: 12 copies of the survey plan of the area duly approved by the Director of Lands or Regional Director of Lands, or if under cadastral survey, the same shall be certified by the Bureau of Lands. B. Duly accomplished fish pond list contract from duly acknowledged before a notary public. So, panotaryuhan pa dyan na nimo sa koan sa attorney. C. Certification issued by the ENR Regional Director and the Regional Trial Court in the judicial district where the area applied for is located, to the effect that the same is not involved in any pending administrative and judicial case, respectively. D. Payment of cash bond deposit and initial rental. Certification issued by the BFAR Regional Director to the effect that the area applied for is not subleased to any other persons, and environment compliance certificate from the INAR. So, mao ni ang final filing for the final requirements for the issuance of the list. Section 13. Terms and conditions of the fish pond list. So the fish pond area covered by the list shall be confined within the perimeter of the parcel of land described therein and shall be utilized by the list for fish pond purposes only. The area subject of the list is public land to the best knowledge and belief of the parties therein, and accordingly, the lessor shall not be responsible for any loss occasioned by legal award of the area to any claimant recognized by the courts. C. The fish pond covered by the list shall be so constructed as not to interfere with the free navigation of any stream, river, migration path, lakes, or bays flowing through or adjoining the fish pens, fish cages, fish traps, and fish ponds, or to impede the flow and ebb of the tide to and from the area. So, any construction made in violation hereof shall be removed upon order of the department through BFAR in coordination with the other government agencies concerned at the expense of the lease or occupants thereof whenever applicable. So, daghan pa kag agian. D. Annual rental shall be set at levels that reflect resource rent accruing from the utilization of resources and shall be determined by the department through BFAR. Failure to pay the annual rentals on the date the same are due shall subject the lease to the corresponding surcharges as provided for in the regulation. So, for failure to pay the annual rentals and surcharges for 2 consecutive years without justifiable cause, the lease shall be cancelled or terminated and the bond therein forfeited in favor of the agreement without prejudice to any action the government may take to recover rentals due including surcharges. E. The lease must introduce improvements in the area within 180 days from the date of issuance of the lease. Otherwise, the same shall be cancelled. So, before 180 days, dapat imuhang dapat imuhang area improve na siya. Kay kung malapas na siya 180 days so wala pa ma-improve so makancel jud siya. The area lease shall be developed and producing on a commercial scale within 3 years from the approval of the FLA, provided, however, that all areas not fully producing within 5 years from the date of approval of the lease shall automatically revert to the public domain for reforestation. F. The leasehold rights of the lease may be transferred covering all or any portion of the fish pond area herein granted to another party subject to the prior written approval of the lessor, provided that the duration of the lease shall be for the unexpired period of the original lease. Letter G. The leasehold rights of the lease may be assigned to any financial institutions to secure a loan for the development of the area and covered by the lease subject to the prior written approval of the lessor. H. The lease is prohibited to sublease all or any portion of the area covered by the lease through any form of arrangement that partakes the nature of a sublease. So I. The lease shall undertake reforestation river banks, bays, streams, and seashore fronting the dikes of his fish pond to at least 50 meters strip whenever applicable is consideration of such areas, topography, elevation, and water depth and subject to future rules that may be promulgated thereon by the DNR. So, ang lease kay dapat mahimo og reforestation sa mga river banks, bays, streams, and seashore nga duol sa dike kay moserve ang tanom as an elevation sa topography sa area o maintain sa iyahang water depth. G. The lease shall provide facilities that will minimize environmental pollution, settling ponds, reservoir, provided that failure to comply with this provision shall mean cancellation of FLA. So, ang lease kay dapat mag-maintain sa kalimpyo sa area or any action nga mo minimize sa pollution sa area kay if mo survey ang taga DNR sa area nya makita nila nga wala na stable ang pag-manage, pwede na nila i-cancel ang agreement. So, key. K. Upon cancellation of the lease for cause, the ejectment of the lease or occupants from the area shall be ordered by the lessor or his authorized representative. Failure to vacate the area shall subject the lease or occupants thereof to applicable provisions of laws, rules, and regulations thereon, and all existing improvements shall be forfeited in favor of the government subject to the rights of the assignee book if applicable as provided in section number 13 paragraph of this order. L. When applicable, in the event of default in the payment of the loan by the lease and the assignee book enforces the terms and conditions of the assignment of rights, the said assignee bank shall have a period of 5 years thereafter to hold the area covered by the lease of purpose of liquidating the debt, disposing of the improvements therein, and negotiating for the transfer of assignment of the rights therein the other qualified transfers who shall comply with the requirements of the lessor. So M. The lease shall keep a record of operations and transaction of the fish pond, which record shall be audited by an independent auditor commissioned by the Lisomonisiang rules and regulations. So, kung mo apply kag. sa area. And the lease shall allow the duly authorized representative of the lessor to inspect and validate all the records required in the operation of the fish pond. The lease shall be subject to the existing laws, rules, and regulations of the matter. So rentals, when due, and payment. So upon the effectivity of this order, the annual rental shall be at the rate prescribed below. So first year, starting from January 1, 2000 until December 31, 2000, the annual rental should be at the rate of 500 pesos per hectare or a fraction thereof. For the second year, the annual rental should be at the rate of 600 pesos per hectare or a fraction thereof. For the third year, the annual rental shall be at the rate of 700 pesos per hectare or a fraction thereof. For the fourth year, the annual rental shall be at the rate of 800 pesos per hectare or a fraction thereof. And for the fifth year, the annual rental shall be at the rate of 1,000 pesos. Siya ang payment niya. Kung mo rent ka, mao to siya kada tuig magkasaka. What's this? Pesos. The rental must be paid not later than the last working day of the month of January of each year. So, provided, however, that the BEFAR shall conduct a study on resource rent of public lands for fish pond development. The result of his study shall be the basis for the rates of rentals for fish pond areas. So, surcharges for the default of payment of rentals. So,
Ano ba?
non-payment non-payment of annual rental when it becomes due and payable shall be subject to the surcharge in accordance with the following schedules. Rentals
Ako lagi. Ito ba sa?
rentals paid from February 1 to March 31, 10%. Rentals paid from April 1 to June 30, 15%. Rentals paid from July 1 to September 30, 20%. Rentals paid from October 1 to December 31 is 25%. So, ang mutiwas ani si Jerome Salutan. Salamat sa pagpaminaw. Ayun, ikuan ra largo lang.
So, continuation of the report of Fao number 197, section 16. Cash bond deposit. Before a lease is issued, the applicant shall as a guarantee of good faith in filing the application and for the satisfactory compliance with the existing fisheries laws, rules, and regulations promulgated thereunder and of the terms and conditions of the lease, be required to deposit a cash bond with the Bureau or its regional offices. So, ang cash bond deposit, so, so, before ang before ang lease mag-issued, ang cash bond deposit the application, the filing ma ma bond ma deposit siya sa bureau or the regional offices. The cash bond shall be at the rate of 100 pesos per hectare or fraction thereof, provided however that after 5 years and lease shall have fully developed the area and made producing in the commercial scale and has satisfactorily complied with all the requirements and the terms conditions of the lease. The director may credit same for payment of annual rental. So, ang kaning cash bond deposit kara per hectare mag magkuan dyan siya every hectare magkuan siya 100 pesos provided after 5 years. So, mao to. And incentives. Fish fund lease agreement holders are mandated to execute within 6 months from the effectivity of the order an incentive plan with the regular fish fund or prawn farm workers or fish fund or prawn farm workers organization if any. whereby 7.5% of their net profit before tax from the operation of the fish pond or prawn farms are distributed within 60 days at the end of the fiscal year as compensation they recently received. In order to safeguard the rights of the regular fish pond or prawn farm workers under the incentive plan, the books of the fish pond or prawn farm owners shall be subject to periodic audit or inspection by certified public accountants chosen by the workers. Section 18. Annual reports on fish pond development, operation, and production. Within 10 days after 6 months from the approval of the lease and every 1 year thereafter, the lease shall submit to the director through the regional director concerned. So, kaning annual report fish pond development, within 10 days after 6 months, so 6 months, namulabay pag 10 days, ang approval sa lease every 1 year, i-submit siya sa director through sa regional director. An annual report under including the species and volume thereof for statistical and evaluation purposes. Said report shall be in a prescribed from duly verified and certified by the regional director concerned or his duly authorized representative. Section 19. Grounds for the rejection of application for lease. So, mga application nga unsa ma-reject ba na imong kuan or ma-accept. An application for lease shall be rejected on any of the following grounds. A. Lack or loss of interest of the applicant. Kanang kuwang kag bayad ba sa interest. B. Application is not qualified. Dili madawat ang imong application. C. Failure to comply with any of the requirements of Section 11 of this order within 60 days from the receipt of notice of compliance. O mo to atong gi-report ni gikuan ni Kim sa Section 11, kung dapat i-comply dyan nimo tanan para ma-approve na siya. Kay kung di nimo ma-comply tanan within 60 days or 2 months, di ma-reject yun ang imong application. D. Date of the individual applicant. E. Dissolution of juridical person. Next is F. Fraudulent, false, or misleading statements of information in the application. Occupying or introducing improvements in the area applied for without a fish pond lease agreement. H. When public interest so requires. So, sa letter G, dapat occupied jud ang imong fish pond lease para ma-agree jud na sila. So, next is Section 20. The conditions on assignment, transfer of leasehold rights and interest. So, conditions. The assignment or transfer may be allowed under the following conditions. A. The assigner or transferor has held the lease for a period of not less than 3 years from the approval thereof. So, pasabot na ni kanang kisa tong na-assign or kanang gi-transferan sa maong lease, dapat dili maabtan siya period not less than 3 years sa ilang approval. Letter B, the area subject of the proposed assignment transfer has been developed and producing in commercial scale except when the area has been abandoned by the lease assigner due to the enforcement of the assignment by the assignee bank. So ang subject nga gi-propose sa maong imong gi-transferan sa imong lease or the commercial scale, dapat dili ma-abandon sa assignor. Dapat dili siya ma-abandon sa imong gi-assign nga transferor para ang imong bank dili makuan. C. The assignor transferor has not violated any provisions of the fishery laws, rules, and regulations related to fish pond development including the terms, conditions of the lease. So dapat ang imong gitransferan dili mag-violated o provision sa mga rules and regulations sa gi gi pasabot sa atong fish pond development. The assignee transferee is qualified to hold the lease person duration of this order. So, akatong gi-assign or kanang mo ay nag-transfer sa maong lease. So, dapat qualified na sila nga ma-hold sila provisions of sa order. The area subject of the assignment transfer is not involved in any administrative or judicial case, and F. The transferee shall enjoy the privilege to hold the lease for the unexpired period thereof and should assume the obligations of the transferor relative to the said lease. Next. So, Section 21. Requirements of assignment, transfer of leasehold rights. Mo ni mga requirements sa mga kanang imong transferan sa imong lease. So, the assignee transferee shall submit the following requirements. An application from duly accomplished o application nga na-accomplish nimo tanan. B, original duplicate copy of the deed of assignment, transfer of leasehold and interest. So original or duplicate nga pamatuod nga ikaw nga ga transfer sa maong imong transferan makahatag og leasehold rights and interest of obligations. C, certified true copies of original receipts of updated payment of rentals. O kanang true copy sa imong original receipts na imong nabayaran through the years or the rentals. D, payment of assignment transfer fee in the amount of 10 pesos per hectare or fraction thereof, but in no case shall it be less than 100 pesos. E, payment of applications fee is 1,000. Application 1,000. F, posting of required cash bond deposit. Dapat mohatag jud ka sa imong cash bond deposit. Latest report of improvements duly inspected and verified by the regional director or his duly authorized representative. H, 12 copies of the survey plan of the area under his or name duly approved by the director of plans. So 12 copies sa imong survey area nga imong gi-construct nga imong ipakuan ni da under ana imong ngan og director of plans of regional director of plans nga approve. I, fish pond lease contract form duly accomplished and acknowledged before notary public. G, certification issued by the BFAR regional director and regional trial court in the judicial district where the area applied for is located to the effect that the sum is not involved in any pending administrative and judicial case respectively. So, certification nga gapamtuod nga sa BFAR director ug ang trial court nga patuod nga ang imong area is nga way kanang way epekto or way involved sa pending administrative sa judicial case. Key affidavit and certification execute and issued by the applicant and BFAR regional director respectively to the effect that the area applied for is not subleased to any persons. So mo to ang requirements. So So section 22 grounds for cancellation or termination of lease. So mo ang mga kuan kanang dili madawat or ma-terminate imong applications. A lease shall be cancelled or terminated on any of the following grounds. A, violation of existing fisheries laws and regulation and other applicable laws. So dapat kung magkuantag mga rules and regulation dapat kung unsa to na sabutan mo jud to dita mo exist or palabian nato ang kuan kay mo na ma-cancel or ma-terminate atong lease. Date of the lease subject to the rights of legal heirs under section 7 of this order. So mo to ang sa section 7 nga putay ka ng banag asawa mo da gabuwag mo da namoy anak mo tong ato sa anak mo anak sa anak mo yung under ato. C. Dissolution of juridical person. D. Fraudulent, false, or misleading statements or information in the application or documents submitted prior to or after the issuance. So, dapat kung magkamatag application, dapat walay sagol kuan, ng binuang, way sagol nga, murag, way, kanang gama-gama lang bitaw. E. Failure to submit the yearly reports. So, dapat dapat i-submit yun ang yearly reports para di ma-cancel. Failure to pay the rentals and surcharges for two consecutive years. So dapat magbayad ta sa renta sa atong area nga for 2 consecutive years. G. Development of the area other than for fiscal purposes. Each failure to comply with the rules and regulation terms and conditions of the lease. I. Sublease of the area or any portion thereof. G. Lease has acquired citizenship in other country during the existence of the FLA. K. Failure of the lease to provide facilities that will minimize environmental pollution, settling ponds reservoirs. Section 23. Disposition of improvements. When the lease had been cancelled or terminated and the leasehold rights therein had not been assigned to any government financing institution, the existing improvements on the area subject of said lease shall be considered automatically forfeited in favor of the government, which shall be disposed by the Bureau pursuant to applicable laws, rules, and regulations. So, mo to sa Section 22 nga ang gapasabot sa Section 23 nga dapat kung ma-cancel or ma-terminated man gani ang imong lease, automatically nga ang imong application ma-forfeited jud na ma-forfeit jud na siya. Kay mo may nasabutan nga once nga ma-cancelled or terminated ang leasehold rights, so automatically forfeited in the favor of the government, which shall be disposed by the Bureau pursuant of the applicable rules. Section 24. Abandon, undeveloped, or underutilized fish ponds. So, mga na yung mga na-abandon nga mga area or mga undeveloped or underutilized or kuan nga fish ponds. Fish pond areas covered by existing FLA which have been determined jointly by the DA, DNR, and LGUs concerned as abandoned, undeveloped, or underutilized portions after 5 years from the issuance of the FLA can be reverted to original mangrove state, and that necessary steps should be made to restore such areas to the original mangrove state. So, sabot na ko ang imong fish pond areas nga nabandon na within 5 years, ang kanang imong area pwede na siya makuan sa makuan sa FLA nga pwede na butangan siya og mangrove state. Section 25. Unlawful use or occupation of public lands released for fish pond purposes. Any person illegally occupying or introducing improvements in areas released for fish pond development without a lease prior to the effectivity of this order shall be penalized through forfeiture of all the improvements introduced therein in favor of the government and shall be vacate the area immediately. So unlawful use or occupation public lands mo to ganihatong kung ma-terminate or cancel magni mo automatically ma-forfeit na siya. Provided however that if the person occupying the said area is applicant, he shall be charged double the ordinary rental charge. So mo to kung ma-forfeiture mangani siya ang person nga nag-ingon nga ang area nga as ang occupied or kanang kuan ba kadyo ma-charge siya og double ordinary rental charges. Upon failure or refusal to pay charges or invention, the said applicants are liable for prosecution upon conviction shall suffer the penalty, which is a fine of 5,000 pesos or imprisonment from 6 months to 4 years or both such fine imprisonment on the execution court. So, kuya man po sila no kay kung ma kanang di ka makabuhat na ni or kanang di ka kabayad sa imong charges nga gikuan sa giingon nila, pwede ka makabayad og 5,000 or kung di ka kabayad og 5,000 pesos, pwede ka i-priso 6 months to 4 years. So kuya ka dyan panel no. So next is section 26, administrative and court action. Mo ni sunod siguro sa kuan kung kuan man gani ka pwede ato sa ato na mapriso ato sa court. So, the secretary, the director, or the duly authorized representative may take action either administrative or judicial as may be necessary and proper to carry into effect the provisions of this order. Adverse claim or protest. Any person has an adverse claim or protest over the area which is subject of application for 25 years fish fund lease agreement shall file his claim or protest with the Bureau within 30 days for acknowledge thereof. Otherwise, such claim or protest shall not be entertained. So, kung kung magreklamo ta or magprotesta, dapat dapat magama tag magama tag mm, magama tag magama tag file agreement sa Bureau within 30 days para ang atong mareklamo ma-entertain kasi kung di na kung di na kung malapas sa 30 days na pag ka magreklamo, pwede na wadon na nila din na nila na entertainon. So, Section 27, Repealing Clause. Fisheries Administrative Order Number 60 as amended. Fisheries Administrative Order Number 125 and existing fishery rules and regulations which are inconsistent with the provisions of this order are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. Effectivity or the last section of Fao No 197. This administrative order shall take effect 15 days after its publication in the official gazette or in two newspapers of general circulation. So, ang effectivity ni sa dapat ang administrative order ma-take dyan siya 15 days of publication sa newspapers. So, that's all guys. So, thank you for listening and God bless us all.